Hope is rising for Nigerians as President Bola Tinubu's request for more monies to provide palliatives gets the approval of the National Assembly. And later on the program,
if I say that we're all affected, some people will mock me and say, oh, you are there, you are at the top there, so how can you say you're affected?
You're watching the Halo Chambers on TVC News. I am Tijesu Adeoye. Glad to have you back. The House of Representatives have agreed to set up a committee that will closely monitor and scrutinize the process for the disbursement of 500 billion naira worth of palliatives to cushion the impact of subsidy removal. The representatives commended the President Bola Tinubu for considering the provisions of the palliatives, but they also warned that the mistakes of the past must be avoided.
The government obviously has done its job, studied the situation, and come to the conclusion that there was a need to respond to Nigerians so that we can not solve all the problems in one full swoop, but provide some support to men, women, families, communities, and constituencies so that they can weather the difficult terrain that we find ourselves in today.
While I commend this, I think we should set up a committee, an ad hoc committee, to recommend the implementation of the palliatives and how these palliatives should be utilized by government.
The House of Representatives is talking about investigating the recent hike in petroleum prices. This has rekindled the hope of some Nigerians that want pressure to pile on oil marketers and the government until the high pump price of petrol is forced down.
I must admit that our patience as Nigerians are becoming intolerable. We're all Nigerians. Every rich man has a poor relation. No matter how rich you are, you have a poor relation. So it goes to say that if I say that we're all affected, some people will mock me and say, oh, you are there, you are at the top there, so how can you say you're affected? Even any primary you can. But for every rich person, he or she has a poor relation. So it means that head or tail, we're all affected. So our patience is becoming overtasked. I must say that. And that explains also why government is not resting on its oars. Apart from the palliative measures, such as, release of funds to, disburse to the poor of the poorest, whatever, which of course I know is the subject of criticisms in the press and everywhere to say, look, he can't do anything for anybody. But then, whether he can do something or he cannot do nothing, wait and see how Nigerians will want to be part of the palliative. It's also going to do little. It may not do much. And like I said in one of my discussions on television also, I said the word is palliative. Palliative is just an incentive, a stopgap. It does not mean that anybody will rely on that for his exclusive livelihood. It means that we can just say, let's assist you and see what we can do. But I must say that the various efforts put in place by government must really be worthwhile. And government, apart from giving out, some direct funding to individuals, must approach the issue of transportation with every seriousness it deserves. Government is trying to buy buses, to do all of these ones, to make available to citizens at more affordable prices. We must hasten this. And I heard in one of the programs earlier this morning that the challenge they're having is to say, okay, let's buy these buses locally, so as to also increase the employment for these locally manufacturing vehicle companies. And then, yes, but they say they're having capacity issues that is hard to deliver the bulk and the lump sum of requirements that is needed. But anyway, it could be a blend of the two, because time is of essence. Nigerians cannot afford to wait any longer. And I also say that part of the deployment of the palliative funding, of course, which of course is being highlighted, is to deploy some of them into road infrastructure, flooding. If our roads are motorable, the time lag we spend on the road will be reduced.
But the hardship caused by this subsidy removal of petroleum products has caused untold hardship for Nigerians. This situation has brought a lot of disruption to businesses, transportation, food prices, and general lifestyle. But the government has now rolled out fresh measures that will cushion the effect of this subsidy removal.
The best the House will do, like you're already aware, is also set up a committee that will ensure that things are done transparently, honestly, is deliverables are timely, and all of these things. So that, of course, is my own job. The job of the workability, the practicability of this assignment rests solely with the governors. And I do not doubt their competence level. I believe that they are all responsible Nigerians. They are all good administrators. They are people who are also very passionate about the concerns of their people and our people now, all inclusive.
Another challenge confronting the country is insecurity, but with the confirmation of the new service chiefs by the National Assembly, everyone looks forward to a decline in the threats to national security.
It's important that in considering the appropriation for next year, the appropriation bill, the Parliament, talk of the responsibility of the Parliament, must provide enough funding. 2, we must also ensure that this funding are deployed appropriately. There is one thing to fund, there is another thing to ensure that the funds are judiciously utilized. That, of course, is that of the job of the Parliament. To also say that, yes, even though we have appointed new security chiefs, it does not mean that they will have to sit on their desk, on their table, they have to plan. And the period of planning takes some little time. He who plans to fail to plan. He who fails to plan to. So we must also know that, yes, they have been approved, they have been appointed, they are going to start work immediately, but then we must also allow them some time to work it out, to do the arithmetics, to do the calculations.
Representative Paul Kalajaye understands that his contributions and interventions as a lawmaker are critical in meeting the demands and yearnings of the people he represents.
The Ajeromi Federal Constituency is called the mini Nigeria. Why do we call it mini Nigeria? That is the local government, the federal constituency that houses all the ethnic nationalities in Nigeria. We have the Yorubas in large quantum, the Igbos, the Shekiris, the Biobios, the Hausas, the Nupes, everybody. And we live together in peace and harmony. So my belief very strongly is that any good you do to that community, you have done to the entire Nigerians. As a parliament, we must also look at, which is part of my agenda, to also say that there are some locations, particularly Ajeromi Federal Constituency, where we must consider as a port for experimentation and implementation of governance par excellence. Whatever we do there, we are not doing it to Yoruba man alone, we are doing it to the ethnic nationality. So we must also focus there. And my agenda is very clear. I know poverty is prevalent in that locality. I also hope that, and I pray that I'm able to achieve it, that we're able to also improve on our road infrastructure. The Governor Sanwo-Olu and the previous administration, Fashola, Ambode, all of them have done pretty good. We just had a new road opened by, Governor Sanwo-Olu of recent, the Mbakadosoro, now named Governor Sanwo-Olu Road. We've also had intervention from the local government chairman, and local government chairmen are doing well. They are attending to the inner roads, they are doing drainages and whatever. So one, we want to look at the road infrastructure. Now, particularly the Kirikiri Road. I intend to come up with a motion very, soon on the Kirikiri Road. The Kirikiri Road was built over 30 years ago. And that is the road that connects the Kirikiri prisons. The place is in deplorable condition. Maybe occasionally, maybe in 5 years ago, we had a FEMA coming there to do palliative, and the job is haphazardly done. You now have almost everywhere that is collapsed, unmotorable, the beggar aspect has collapsed. So it becomes a security challenge too, even for moving prisoners to the high courts, to the various courts. So we intend to also want government to come to our aid in terms of developing the road infrastructure. And I also intend to also look at, we have the federal press. The old government press used to be housed by Ajegunle. It occupies a large chunk of the land. And today, since they moved away, since federal government relocated to Abuja, and they have relocated every staff to Abuja, the place has been desolate. What we see now is that people use it for event center, come and do parties there. And miscreants are occupying the place. I also intend to also do a motion in that respect. I'm letting out a lot of things out of the case, but then this is an opportunity for our people to know what we intend to do for them and what the agenda is. That place should be converted into a vocational skill acquisition center. Ajegunle people, Ajegunle fellow federal concerned people are known for their prowess in sport, in games, in entrepreneurship, in whatever. We can turn that place into a large skill acquisition center. You can also provide an avenue to train graduates who are unemployable, because you can graduate and become unemployable. Because when you say unemployable, it does not mean that you have not gone to master what you have done to do in the school. But then that skill is not required in society any longer. It's already overloaded and saturated. So it could be a place where we can retrain graduates for re-employability scheme. These are things that are upcoming. And then we also need to, we will be looking at poverty alleviation in terms of programs, in terms of palliatives and whatever. Those are some of my legislative agenda.
The National Assembly is a busy place. As the bastion of democracy, it is a place where bills are presented, motions debated, laws made, and the yearnings of the people are laid bare. Come with us as we take you through the workings of the National Assembly. We take you through plenary, committee meetings, and probes, all to ensure smooth working of the democratic process.
Glad to have you back. Joining me live in the studio is Senator Mohammed Mongono from Borno State. It's good to have you on the program, sir.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Another significant legislative assignment we witness is the approval of funds for the federal government to cushion the effect felt by the removal of fuel subsidy. The federal government has started the process of providing these funds. I also understand that you have been one of the members on the floor, championing this cause for, federal government to provide the means to cushion the harsh effects already being felt. But already the opposition party has described this as a brazen attempt, to divert funds as witnessed in the past. How would you advise the federal government to avoid mistakes of the past?
Well, I commend the executive arm of government for coming off with a palliative to the tune of 500 billion naira. Because of the removal of fuel subsidy, it has unleashed a lot of hardship on the lives of Nigerians because of the multiplier effect, the increase in the price of PMS has generated. So there is a need to come up with palliatives to cushion that effect, to give succor to Nigerians. And the executive arm of government has done so in the right direction by bringing it to Parliament, for which Parliament has approved. I don't want to subscribe to the idea that these monies are going to be diverted or is not going to impact positively on the lives of Nigerians as being alleged by the opposition. For example, about 12 million families are going to benefit 8,000 naira per month for 6 months. And these 12 million families are going to be people that are at the bottom of the ladder.
A lot of people are worried about how this distribution is going to be made. If you recall, during this week, there's a matter currently before lawmakers and senators of distribution of funds that came up on the floor. So that is another issue that is a cause of concern for many people. How is this funds going to be distributed?
There's no cause for concern in the sense that even the spokesman to Mr. President has come out to clearly say that these funds are going to be distributed digitally. That means the beneficiaries have their account for which these monies are going to be credited to the account. So it's something that is going to be done transparently, and it can be traced at any given point in time. It can be traced.
So what's the selection process like? Is there going to be like an application, or this data is just made available to the federal government already, and they know who
there is already a data that has been generated by the government of this category of people. It is in the custody of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. So it is through this data that they will identify the individuals which I will describe as the poorest of the poor, of which they will identify them and then credit their respective accounts with these monies.
Moving ahead now, distinguished, tell us what are lawmakers saying about the expectations of Mr. President's ministerial list? Is there some sort of impatience among lawmakers? Are lawmakers getting impatient?
No, we are not getting impatient because Mr. President is still within his constitutional limit as to the time when he's supposed to present the ministerial nominees to the Senate. So we are patiently waiting because it's still within the constitutional limit allowed by Mr. President to submit the names. There are a lot of speculations in the media as to who made the list, and we are not going to speculate until when we see the list. And Mr. President, being a person that is a good hunter of talents, as exhibited while he was governor of Lagos State, I think he will still keep that tradition of hunting for talents that will assist his administration in the delivery of dividends of democracy to the doorsteps of Nigerians. And we also expect Mr. President, keeping with his tradition of putting square pegs in square holes, so that they will discharge the functions of their office with the background of knowledge, armed with all the professional capacity to discharge the function of the office for which they were nominated.
So for what you're saying now, we won't see the common take a bow and go like we usually see. We are going to see like a very good grilling of this.
Well, yes, definitely this Senate, as the Senate President has always said, is going to be an uncommon Senate. Well, with regard to the tradition of bow and go, I think it is mainly extended to members of the national, former members of the National Assembly, whether a member of the House of Rep or the Senate. I think that tradition maybe sustained, maybe will be sustained, maybe because of the respect that is going to be accorded to former members of the National Assembly. But all other nominees are going to be subjected to thorough scrutiny to determine whether they are fit to discharge the functions of that office, because Nigerians have a lot of expectation on this government to bring succor to their life, to transform the living standards of Nigerians, to bridge our infrastructure gap and what have you. So because of that, definitely the nominees are going to be subjected to thorough scrutiny by the Senate.
Okay, for you as a lawmaker representing people of Borno State, what will be your legislative agenda? What kind of legislations should we expect you to bring to the floor of the Senate, to project the minds of your people?
Well, definitely, as a representative of a people, all your aspirations are supposed to be in consonance with the wishes of your people. As rightly alluded to by your question, my primary objective is an area of legislative concern is to revamp agriculture in my constituency, which is going to be multifaceted. Multifaceted in the sense that in order to revamp agriculture, being the mainstay of the economy of my people, is to one, ensure that there is security. Security is of primacy for any environment to function well. So in that regard, I will champion all bills that is going to secure the lives of Nigerians, and that is the primary purpose of government, the security and welfare of the people. Having regard to the fact that my constituency has been ravaged by the Boko Haram insurgency, and then two, all our roads in my constituency and Borno State as a whole, they are in a deplorable state. So there is a need for reconstruction of our roads so that palm produce are going to be evacuated to the cities. Then we have serious problem of water supply because of the arid nature of my constituency. So, and because of that, I'm going to give emphasis to the issue of provision of potable water supply across the nooks and crannies of my constituency.
All right, on a final note, we've seen the high turnover of lawmakers. There are new lawmakers now in the National Assembly, and the worry for a lot of people is how fast these new lawmakers can catch up with the workings of the National Assembly, and especially during plenary, we've seen how lawmakers struggle to, get accustomed to what is applicable in the chamber. How fast would you say are these new lawmakers catching up?
Well, yes, as rightly pointed out by you, there is a very high turnover of legislators each year, each time we have an election, about 70 to 75%. And this is peculiar to the Nigerian society, whereby the office of the lawmaker, whether a federal constituency or a senatorial district, is being rotated amongst local governments, and sometimes it has even cascaded down to rotation among various communities and clans. So after one term, this community will clamor that this is his turn, then after another term. So the Nigerian legislature is deprived of the requisite capacity and then the requisite wherewithal to discharge the functions of their office. Because in every election season we have new crop of legislators. Well, my advice as a fifth term member, as a sixth term member now in the National Assembly, 5 terms in the House and then now 1 term in the Senate. My advice to new legislators is to first sit down and learn the rudiments of legislation by understudying what their senior colleagues are doing. It's not enough for you to just come one day and then try to sponsor a bill or sponsor. Sit down for the first at least 2-3 months. Sit down and study the process of legislation as being done by your senior colleagues before you now come up with your motion or come up with your legislation. And then that is why the Center for Democratic Studies organizes all these courses and what have you before our inauguration, with a view to us exposing lawmakers to the nitty-gritty and nuances of legislation. So some people, pick fast, while some people are very slow in learning. But generally, my advice is for them to sit down and then study from their senior colleagues the process as well as the nitty-gritty of legislation before they start sponsoring their bills or their motions on the floor of the legislature.
That is all we have on the program this week. Thank you for being a part of it. Do remember you can see this episode again on TVC News YouTube channel. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share. Also watch a repeat broadcast on Sunday, 7 a.m. Thank you for watching. I am Tijesu Adeoye. See you next time.